we're going to talk a little bit about the Apple TV 4K, the nicest, greatest Apple TV box that's out, and the new Roku Ultra. What is it called? It's called 2019 Roku Ultra. That is what it's called. We're going to talk about it because I'm fascinated by what's happening in this space right now. I've got 3 Apple TVs around the house or studio right now. So they're essential. They're like an essential part of my everyday living. In the studio, use it all the time. I don't know if you guys know this, but some of the backgrounds that you see in videos are just on a giant, huge 65-inch TV with a desk in front of it and got Unsplash, the app running in the background, just kind of like cheating there a little bit with some cool visuals, and you may not realize it's just in the studio there, but it's essential though in the studio. And yeah, I've got one in the bedroom. So yeah, Apple TV. And of course, that makes sense. I use so many Apple devices. But the Roku is interesting because it's $80 cheaper and still gives you 4K content. And I thought, there's people out there probably who are like, which one should I get? And so I just want to keep you guys informed. And it's just an interesting discussion to see like who is doing what in this space and which one is really better. Is price all that actually matters? You're going to be surprised. And I should point out, Apple has like 2 different Apple TVs boxes out on the market right now. We're talking about the higher end one, not the one that's just HD. So this Apple TV, I can't believe this, but the Apple TV 4K, it's been out for a couple of years. I think it was announced in 2017. So if you got one, to me it seems like just the other day, but I can't believe it was all the way back in 2017. So it's been around. It's getting ancient already in tech world. But the Roku that just came out is 2019 and is very similar to what they've offered before, but it has a few new features. So let's talk about the remote first, because there's a new updated remote, even though it looks old, and I don't like the look of the Roku remotes. I don't mind saying that. Just, it feels ugly. It feels the opposite of well-designed, but whatever. It's cheaper and whatever, and it's not that bad. But yeah, so one of the new things is there's 2 shortcut buttons. And this I like the idea of. You can reprogram these 2 buttons to be shortcuts for whatever you want. And from what I understand, you can do that with your voice too. So that's pretty convenient. That's something that you don't get over on the Apple side of things. And I have a feeling the reason that Apple doesn't just include something like that is because they figure you can launch whatever you want using your voice, using that voice or Siri button. And so they're like, well, why clutter up the remote, right? Apple's all about simplicity. And of all the Apple products, this remote probably has the most problems in terms of actual real-world usability. But I'm thinking that's what they're thinking. On the side of the Roku remote, you've got your volume buttons, but there's also a mute button, which I like because that's something that the Apple TV doesn't have. And it's annoying because if I'm watching something, I do want to mute it. Like, one time, a good place where I'm a good example of this, I mute the commercials during like live sports games because that's one of the things that I still tune into actual TV channels for is for sports. And so if it's like the Broncos are on CBS or something, there's a lot of ads, I mute those so I don't have to listen. But I can't do that with the actual Apple TV remote. And that's annoying. So kudos for Roku for putting that on there. Another thing that it has on the Roku remote is a universal power button. And on the Apple, remote, it's supposed to be more simplified. If you just touch it, it should fire up everything, turn on your TV and everything if you have the right ARC input or whatever. And then if you hold down the certain button, you can put everything to sleep too, including the TV. So there's not like just a dedicated power button, but it would almost be simpler and nicer to have. Like, just give me a power button on, off. You know what I mean? I understand where Apple was going, and it's just, and sometimes it's annoying because you can accidentally turn it on, or like an animal can brush past it and accidentally turn on all your stuff because of that crazy touch area on the Siri remote. So, but speaking of like shortcut buttons, the Roku remote, it also has, like it has before, dedicated buttons for like Netflix and Hulu and I don't know what all. But, and that's just clutter for me. I don't like having that. It's very easy to just, click one more button. I like the simplicity in some areas on the Apple Siri remote, and that's one of them. I don't like those buttons that are dedicated. Some people probably do. I just don't like them. Some people really like the fact that the Roku remote has a headphone jack on the side where you can just plug in. I don't like that. I don't care. I'm not going to use it. You guys know, if you know me at all, I'm all about wireless stuff where possible. And one of the best things about the Apple TV is that you can very, very quickly, instantly connect your AirPods and listen. If you want to not disturb everybody, AirPods. That's the way to go. So much better than having a wired input on the side of the remote, right? And then it's attached to the remote. I don't like that. The feel, though, of this Siri remote, functionality aside, the feel of it is like it's much more premium. It's nicer. The materials, it's clearly more, I was going to say well thought out, but I don't think that's the right way to phrase it. But from a design perspective, you can respect the effort that was put into trying to make it really premium and nice, because it does have a premium, nice feel. Whereas the Roku remote on the other side, it just feels last minute. I know that's not fair. Somebody put a lot of time and effort into this. It's not something that I like. Now, let's be honest. The bulk of the content that everybody in the world is going to be consuming on either device is going to be there for both devices, whether it's Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, music, whatever it is. The mainstream stuff is going to be there on both. So that's hardly really a differentiating factor. Now, Roku has done something, well, Apple and Roku have gone separate directions when it comes to price, because Roku knows its customer. They're saying these people don't care. They want to spend less, so they don't care about like maybe little things that they view as frivolities. And so they bake into things like their search price-based ranking and stuff. So they may favor in the search rankings things that are free to watch, for instance, which you might really like. Whereas Apple is like, we're going to polish every little corner and make it just as premium as possible, because we know that our customers are likely to be willing to spend a little bit extra money, perhaps. One thing I'll say about that, though, is that for the same reason that I don't watch just like cable right now, or haven't for years, and most people aren't, is because I have switched, and I think a lot of people have really switched to more of an on-demand type of thing, and it's less about, for me, when I have, which is rare these days, time to like sit down and watch a movie or something, what I'm not doing is like browsing through to see what's on or what's available right now. That's not usually what I'm doing. So whether it's ranked by the price and it's free or whatever, even when I had like Sling TV, which I canceled, I don't know if I told you guys that, but when I had that, there's a lot of movies that are on for free on these different channels, movie channels and whatever, regular channels. And for a limited time, they would have certain movies on that were just on that channel for, I don't know, a month or two or whatever, until the window was over and the content rights moved somewhere else. And, you know, even if I DVR'd it, like, I want to be able to pick. I don't really go looking for somebody's recommendation or just what happens to be available so I can just be entertained with something. You know, like, I try to be more purposeful about what I'm consuming. So that kind of thing with the Roku, it doesn't really appeal to me. I'm after what I'm after. So, but one of the things that Roku has is this thing called the Roku Channel, and it's like a catalog of free movies and TV shows and news and kids programs and all that kind of stuff, which is nice. I guess I haven't really used it. But what Apple has done, on the other hand, is have Apple TV Plus, which is like actual original exclusive content that you can get. And it does cost you, but just this is what I'm talking about. Totally different strategies between these two companies and boxes and services. Now, here's where things get really interesting. You can get the Apple TV app on Roku devices now. Isn't that interesting? So in a way, you end up getting a little bit of the Apple TV experience on a Roku device. But don't be fooled, though. It's not really a full Apple TV experience. We're going to talk about all the ways that the Apple TV actually differentiates itself for that extra $80 in just a minute. And you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's way different. But still, it's cool that if you do go this route, because maybe you have like an extra TV somewhere and you don't want to spend that extra money, but you do just want the content, maybe just getting a Roku and having the Apple TV app, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, is good enough. So it's cool that it's there. And yes, Apple TV Plus will also be available through that Apple TV app on Roku devices too, because Apple's not siloing that off. They want as many people as possible to subscribe to it, kind of like Apple Music is available on Android. Same kind of a thing. One thing that's very cool about the Roku is that you can stream YouTube stuff in 4K. I create 4K content. The podcast stuff, the clips, I do that in 1080 because it's mostly just a bonus on top of the audio content, the audio side. But like on the main channel, yeah, that's 4K, absolutely trying to make it as good as possible, as clear as possible. And it's kind of annoying. You can't see my content in 4K on the Apple TV through the YouTube app, but you can on the Roku. So if that actually matters, then there you go. But if you're sitting there thinking to yourself like, yeah, that Roku box, it sounds pretty good. Maybe that's what I'm going to get. Here's some of the things that differentiate the Apple TV. Number one, AirPlay. You knew I was going to say that. And I'm not just saying things going to the Apple TV, which is nice, but also coming from the Apple TV. You can use AirPlay 2 to play your sound through HomePods, for instance. That's not going to happen on the Roku. And then there's also like the setup process. I love when I get a new Apple product and it's going to come join the rest of the products in my ecosystem, and it's just hold the two things together and they pair. Well, that's the same kind of a thing. Get your Apple TV set up by putting your iPhone close, and it does a thing where it brings up the little thing, you hit connect. That's just awesome, right? That doesn't matter really. It's like not a reason just to buy it over the Roku, but it's that kind of stuff. I was talking about they just polish all the corners, make sure it looks good, works good. That's the kind of thing. What's actually much more substantial, though, in the features department is the fact that you can use your Apple TV as a home hub, well, smart home hub. So, like, you can use it to control all your smart home stuff. It's a hub for your smart home. And that's not something you're going to get with the Roku. Something that I really love about the Apple TV experience is when it's time to enter a password. You're not stuck there just like, poking the little buttons, trying to find everything and hitting the shift key to like, you know what I mean? On the Apple TV, number one, you could voice your password. That's really stupid if somebody else is around and you don't want, but you can do it if you're alone, which is very cool. Number two, if you have your iPhone, it'll buzz in your pocket when you get to the password field or the search field, and you can either type it or voice it right there. And on top of that, if you have iCloud set up with your password management, then you can just enter it in right there too. So from your phone to your Apple TV. That's magic. That's the Apple magic. And then there's all the iCloud stuff. So like your music and your photos. It's really cool, to like go out on a day trip or something, come back and everyone can like gather around the TV and you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to AirPlay. It's just open up the Photos app and boom, there's your photos on your really nice TV, for everybody to take in and remember. So, that's convenient. What I will say about the Roku experience, though, is it's all about streaming. Like, technically, probably there is more content to stream over there. I think ultimately it doesn't really matter because it's stuff you wouldn't end up really caring about. Probably, for most people, 99% of people. But what they don't have is a lot of the extra stuff. Like, yes, you can go search in Roku and find some other streaming channels, and you can do that on the Apple TV. But on the Apple TV, if you want to have a whole different kind of an app, you can check out the App Store. And like one of my favorites is, what is it called? Oh, Numerics. And it's a subscription service these days, but it's cool. Like if you want to put up a dashboard with all your business KPIs and metrics and analytics and stuff, you could do that. And it's an easy way to get that on a TV. There's a whole like thriving app store, less than you get on like an iPhone or iPad, whatever. But there's a lot of cool apps for your TV. Like I already mentioned, Unsplash, just like cool stuff. You're just not going to get nearly the quality of apps over on the Roku. And you know what else you're not going to get is games. From what I understand, there's a couple little cheesy games. I don't know who would ever want to play them on the Roku. On Apple TV, there's like games anyways, but now there's also Apple Arcade. Oh, and on top of that, you can hook up your Xbox controller, your PlayStation controller. It's not even comparable. It's only $5 a month for the whole family too. The whole family can enjoy it. So man, just the ability to use Apple Arcade on one of your streaming boxes, that's insane. Just talking about the premium feel stuff, one annoying thing when you open Roku, and you just see like there's an off the shelf component stuffed in there in terms of the cable. Whereas Apple even went to the trouble of designing really nice premium feeling power cable. You know what I mean? It's just all about the feel. Like it is a premium experience. And some of that stuff, it may not matter to you. But on the other hand, it just goes to show you if they put that much experience into some of it, then it tells you a lot about the rest of the experience too, I think. With one exception. how usable that remote actually is. And to be very fair, the remote is usable. Like it's just like it gets a C instead of an A if I were to grade it. And I just talked about this. What video did I talk about this in? I often have switched over to just using my phone because you can swipe down from the corner, open up your notification center on the iPhone, and there's an icon there to use it as a remote for your Apple TV. That is almost just easier and better and more accurate, honestly. So that's something you can think about too. The Apple TV has baked the power brick into the unit itself, which is different than Roku. That's nice. If you are short on space in your home theater setup and you don't want an extra power brick messing everything up, that's something to think about. That's kind of a small thing. But here's what's a big thing. Dolby Vision, which requires more CPU, which the Apple unit has. So if HDR matters to you, if you want it to look better, if you're going for the best possible experience, because 4K is one thing. And I used to talk about this a lot when I did PlayStation versus Xbox and gaming videos. This has been several years ago now. But HDR is almost a bigger upgrade than 4K in a lot of cases. Coming from HD to 4K, going from non-HDR to HDR. So the quality of your HDR is really going to impact how cool your content looks. And if you have a TV that can take advantage of that, it's really a no-brainer. So I guess at the end of the day, if all you care about is watching content, then maybe the Roku's cool. Then maybe that's fine. Even Apple content, maybe the Roku's cool in 4K. But the Apple TV genuinely offers you more stuff. And I would say considerably more stuff. And for me, if I had the money, I would just absolutely go with the Apple TV 4K. Give me that Dolby Vision. Give me the Apple Arcade.